morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be joining today. Thank you so much. Welcome in, welcome in. This is the F word, follow up trends in real estate. I am your host, Sara Delansig, and Heather Murcin is also here from Ravelworks Assist. And we like to host this podcast because we make a lot of calls. We make a lot of calls. Yeah. We make a lot of calls. We see a lot of friends in real estate follow up, and we do things a bit differently. I'm more of a niche ISA company called the Inside Sales Agency, and she's more of a traditional ISA/VA company. And so we were at an event recently that Street Text put on, and we spoke at this event together, like we do sometimes. And we were given a topic that we were gonna share about, and we did not have enough time to really address this topic, I feel like. So, and it is a really common topic. So we're gonna do that today. We're gonna get into this, and I'm gonna kind of let Heather take the reins on this a little bit because I have a different perspective on it, and she is gonna be more helpful than I am at this point, I believe. But just to give you some idea, the topic today is objection handling versus objection forcing and how to know the difference. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to make this very clear from the start. The goal is not to win the conversation, okay? The goal is to understand the human, the person that you're talking to. And sometimes it's helpful to call them a human and not a lead, or to call them a potential buyer or potential seller or something along those lines that humanizes them. Because when you call them a lead, you can disconnect from the fact that these are real people with real, real problems doing some real things. So we're going to get into the truth about objections. And I want to start with not every objection is a real objection, okay? Sometimes it's just a brush off or a boundary or a timing issue or a trust gap, or it could just be a hard no. Like, it's not the same thing all the time. Okay. So we're going to kind of try to define this and figure out what that looks like. Um, so we're gonna learn what it looks like. And so for example, we're just looking could also mean we do not trust you yet, or we're waiting until rates drop could mean we're scared, or we're going with a friend is often actually a real decision. So like that's for thing. But your job is to uncover clarity, not override it. So I want to bring that up because that is more of I am very much of the belief that I don't want to force anyone to anything. And I do think that Heather and I see more eye to eye than not on this, right? And so I want to let her kind of take this over because she has a little bit more of the objection handling rubric, if you want, or like layout and system. Whereas I just handle objections basically like, okay, if they say they're just looking, I'll be like, great. Can I help you find what you're looking for? Like, that's my objection. The end. So Heather, go ahead, take it away.
So I actually put together some well, I think I got like 6 or 7. The kids are gonna love this when I hear this playing in the background. But 6 or 7 different objections, and I thought it would be fun if we laid out the objection, and then you say how you would handle it, and then I'd say how I would handle it, and kind of let people see that there's no wrong way to handle it necessarily, but just that we can kind of see the difference of what you would say versus what I would say.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. So the first one is we're just going to use the same agent we used before, or we have a friend in the business.
Okay, you want me to go?
It doesn't matter. I can go where you go. It doesn't matter.
Awesome. Sounds like you've got a great plan. If anything changes and you need some help, feel free to let us know. There's my objection. I don't object. Okay, your turn.
So, and I think, so I think the first important part, especially in that sentence, is like finding out if it's a brother or a sister or an aunt or an uncle, right? Because if they have somebody in the family, that's not an object. I mean, that is an objection, but that's one of those ones that's like, this is the hard no. Like, you're not going to convince them otherwise. There's no point in continuing. Cool, but it's no panning out, right? I think
Exactly.
I agree on that. However, there are people that say that, and I think you'll agree with me here, that are just telling you that to get you off the phone, right? They're brush off, like, excuse, whatever. So, me, I would say, make sense. And listen, before you hang up, can I ask you a quick question about that? Right? Getting their agreeable removed. And then, since you're using the same agent, would there be any downside in potentially getting a second opinion before you make any decision?
That's
Right?
good. That's solid.
So just finding out clarity, like you said, and I think that's a really good example of that. So that's yeah.
Yes. That was great. I commend you on that. And my thing with it is, like you said, you had mentioned family. I have been the family that my sister did not buy with me, even though I helped her with other things in real estate. And they ended up using, yeah. Well, and anyways, and then now my brother-in-law is a lawyer and now he doesn't even use an agent and it's a whole thing and it was a very like disheartening thing. So when I run into that objection with family and stuff, I'm like I usually like if they're giving me that objection, I feel like that's a valid response, especially if they're like we love our agent, we just want to use the same agent. Um I do like where you're coming from, though. There's no harm in asking if they would be open to second opinion. So that's good. See, learning, growing.
Evolving.
Yes.
It is usually me learning from you, so it's good to be on this side.
I learn from you all the time. Come on now.
I know. I just have you like on this huge pedestal because you're amazing.
I have you
Uh,
pedestal too.
okay. How about do you have a buyer?
You mean,
You get that one?
oh,
Like if
oh,
yeah, yeah. Like if
oh.
someone says you have a buyer, why do you have a buyer? I'm gonna
Why do you have a buyer? Oh, okay. Yeah. That's an interesting too. Okay. If somebody says, why do you have a buyer? Depends. What are you willing to sell the house for? Like, what do you want for it? Then I'm going to look it up and I'm going to find out if it's ridiculous because a lot of times it is. Let's be real. I'm not trying to be negative here, but when they're saying, why do you have a buyer? But I do want to find out though, especially in luxury, I want to find out exactly what they're willing to so that's where I would go. I would say, you know what? We have lots, we work with lots of different people. It just depends, like, you know, i- is there a time that we could take a look at your house? Should you have pictures of your house? Like, we want to know what it's in, like in this condition. Want to know why it would be necessary. Because I do have this guy that I talked about before that is waiting for one specific property on one specific and it's been 2 years, and he only wants and it's not one, but it is like he wants to be on a specific street in a specific neighborhood, and so in a specific layout too. So, like, we're talking maybe a handful of these houses, and it's, like, not a turnover type of place, it's like a gated community, you know what I mean? So, when it's luxury, I definitely go that route, and I never really run into that outside of luxury, so I will put it that way.
and I think the actually you kind of answered that question a little bit because where you said you're more of a niche and I'm more of the traditional, I think I run into this when I have FISBOs or when I am sickle prospecting. So those are the
Exactly.
two biggest
And
things.
I don't do those, so
Yeah. So I would say I'm glad you brought it up. And can I ask you? That was actually the reason I was calling. But can I ask you a quick question before I let you go? Like that sentence right there, I use quite a bit because it gains that permission to continue, and they're like, "Sure, right? Like, what are you gonna say?" And then I say, "Would you be totally against the idea of having more than just one buyer interested in your home? I mean, if it meant that you got the price that you were looking for or more, right?"
yeah, see, you're going to price too, you wanna know what they
Yeah.
want, and
That's
then
exactly why I giggled. You said that. So I was like, same idea. And you're doing it in your niche where I'm doing it traditional. So you see, our minds are exactly at the same place. We just get there we take a different route.
we definitely take different routes, yes, and I think it's interesting, though, that the way that you phrase it is, like, so non-confrontational. First of all, you say, "Can I ask you a quick question?" That really piques curiosity, and we all know that now I wanna know what questions he's about to ask me. We can't say no at that point unless they're just totally, like, shutting down, and in that point, for me, be like, "Well, I didn't wanna work with you anyway." So I mean, it's me, but okay. So I like that. And then you kind of phrase it like, but would you like to have more than one buyer? Duh, of course they're gonna want to have more than one buyer. Like who
And
wouldn't?
then we explain how we get there. And you got to meet with my agent. And then it's up to him to take it from there. So,
Yeah. And see, I have a little bit like I'm like, only if my agent actually has multiple buyers, like I go there because I don't want to be telling any kind of untruth.
see, but I will say though, if you say that and they're like, well, yeah, if you can bring multiple buyers, now it's the agent's job to get the multiple buyers. So I do agree with you to an extent, but also the agent's going to run ads. Like they're going to explain how they're going to bring more than one buyer. So I do agree with you, but also there is a little bit of a loophole that I kind of.
That's what I'm saying though. It's a loophole because it's providing the impression that you already have multiple buyers that are interested in an area that their home is in. So it's kind of like painting a picture that I don't know that I would do. Like I wouldn't do it that way. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I love what you're
There,
doing for the work.
I feel like the agents that we work with are very good at what they do, and I have like the ones that I'm a little iffy about. That's one of the ones I'm like, "Ugh, I don't want to set them up for failure. Like they're not going to be able to show up with multiplier. Like they're going to have to win this guy's trust. They're going to have to win him over. But the ones that I know that are solid and know how to do the marketing, know how to do all of that, I'm like, game on, let's go. Like we can
Yeah.
absolutely bring the one
Yeah. And
buyer.
I do have clients like that like I know, like big teams that I know.
Yeah,
Like of course we have. What are you talking about? Of course we have multiple
gotcha.
buyers. Yeah. Anyways. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. How about we're gonna wait, or we're not selling any longer?
Um
Be like, well, like, and I don't know if you call the older weed or like the ones I'm running into this a lot. Actually, I ran into this probably about 8 times yesterday, no less than that. But it was ones that I was calling old street text lead where they're like, yeah, we decided not to, or we're gonna wait, or yeah, we're not selling anymore. Like I ran into that a lot yesterday, so I was just curious how you handle that.
Yeah, okay. So I'll handle the we're gonna wait one. Because the we're not gonna sell anymore is again, I'm just gonna be like, all right, awesome, you have a wonderful day. Now, the we're gonna wait one, I actually handle, I'll be like, what's that look like? You know, what do you like? What's the reason behind it? Why did you decide to do that? Like, is it if they have some answer after that? We're gonna wait because interest rates. We're gonna wait for so and so to get elected, which is a huge one that I heard like 2 years ago. We're gonna wait for whatever reason. We're gonna wait until our children graduate high school. So I'm trying to figure out like, okay, cool. When the time comes, do you have an agent that you plan on using? That's usually my go to as well. Like, great. When the time comes, do you have an agent that you plan on using at that time? If they say yes, I'm like, hey, have a great day. And if they say no, then I'll say, what does that look like? And so I can follow back up and, see if we can help you out. And then I would cut the time in half, whatever they say, reach out again.
I loved your answer here because you very much made it make it about the person, right? And I think that's really important. And I think we completely align on that because each person's reason for waiting, I think, is significant to their or tailored to like their household and what they're going through. And I think finding that motivation is super important. But that's why I think phrasing the question the way that you are phrasing them is to get them to open up a little bit more. And that's the whole goal, right? It's to lower that psychological reactance and open up that real motivation. So me, I would say makes sense, especially with how crazy this market is. And listen, before I hang up, can I ask you a quick question? Sure. If you got an offer on your home right now that made both financial sense and terms that are favorable, is that something you'd be totally against at this point? And you've heard me use this a lot. I use that
Yes.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I ask that is because I want them to feel like, well, why do you have an offer? Or, what are your thoughts? Because
Curious. Yeah.
if they say no, which is what they're conditioned to at that point, right? Because every time you walk into a store, every time you go anywhere, especially even from a young age, right? You walk in with a parent and the salesman walks up to them and they're like, "Hi, can I help you find something today?" And they're like, "No, I'm just browsing," right? You're conditioned to say no to these type of questions from the job, and that's that psychological reactive. So I think by asking the type of questions that we're asking, the goal is to figure out, well, yeah, actually, do you have any do you know where the white couches are? Or, like wait, actually, I do need your help. I was just too scared to say it, or I didn't want to be bothered, or whatever. So let's be
Yeah.
able to get them to open up and tell us what their motivation is.
Yeah. So I want to caveat it with, okay, so it's not that I didn't try objection handling in a traditional sense when I first started my business, right? It's that I found when I did, and I would put them into a situation like that, then 9 times out of 10 they would cancel, or the agent would show up and it was really a waste of their time and that sort of thing. So with my business and the way that I have it structured, it's much more lucrative for my time to be spent on the people that are hand raising versus the people that are telling me all of the objections. And I don't ever want to force anyone into anything that they're not ready for. And I don't think that's what you're doing. So I want to be clear, but it's just that's not my area of like feeling comfortable with it. And I think it is your area of being comfortable with the way that you do things. And if you're seeing closings from it and that's working out for you, then more power to you.
No, and I agree with that. And I think that's where I've learned a lot with you because before it was like me, my thought was if they clicked on an ad, if they were a FISBO, if they tried to sell their house in a capacity, they want to sell, right? My job is to find out how do I get them there and how do I get them in front of my agent. So I would do and say whatever it took to get my agent through the door. And like you, I found that there was no intent behind the appointment. It was either setting the agent up for success or failure, or it was a long drawn out process and it was a nightmare for the agent. And yes, maybe they got the closing or maybe they got the contract, but it didn't go well. And it just, you're right. It was somebody that we didn't want to do business with from the jump, which is why I say now, like, I want to know, do we have a
Yeah.
chance of doing business? Because if not, see you. Like, my
Yeah, there you go.
into you.
Yes, exactly. So that's the difference between objection handling and objection forcing. Like we learned here. Yeah. I love that. Okay.
I agree with that. Actually, I got this one yesterday. The interest rates are just too high right now.
Great. What's an interest rate that you're comfortable transacting at?
Ooh, and what did they say? I'm waiting for it to get to 4%.
Awesome. Well, I'll reach out when it's 4%. No, like I literally no. There a lot of times though, a lot of times they don't answer with a percentage because they don't actually mean it because they aren't serious. So when they say I'm waiting for the interest rates because mine is 2.0 and I refinance, great. Well, then you have no motivation to move. Like you really don't want to, and I used to go assumable loan route, but then one of my clients recently educated me a little bit more on the assumable loan and it's not like okay, so you can get an assumable loan for whatever amount of equity the home has, but anything over that, you have to get a new loan for. And I did not know this. Yes. So
I did not know that. Really?
I didn't either, right? Yes. See, I need to have my client on here. He is a freaking genius. But yes, for years I was like using this assumable loan thing. Wait, Debbie, do you have something about that? Because I saw you put your finger.
Well, I have a friend who wants to do an assumable. She wants to sell her house for an assumable because her rate is like 2.25 on a VA loan. And she wants to sell her home in California and move to Tennessee. And she wants to buy an assumable VA loan. But Angie was telling me, does that affect your VA loan? Because you only get like one at a time. And so assuming one, does that negate you from
Engage the other.
assuming
think-
another?
I think that you can assume one VA to another. Okay. I think that that's true. Cause honestly, my client is, in the military and we had this conversation about a VA assumable loan. The problem is that whatever the loan amount is left, it's the loan amount that they have left. That is the only, that's the total amount that they can assume. And they have to get a new loan for the rest of it. And so that's where the problem is that you can't get two VA loans for that, if that makes sense.
So let's say the house is listed at 500,000. We're just going to throw round numbers out there.
Yeah.
Say the house is listed at 500,000, but they only owe 200. So they can only assume the 200 and they got to figure out something else for the 3.
With the 300. Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay. I need
And
to
so-
explain that to her.
Yeah. Now I want you guys to do your own research on this. I was talking with my client in Georgia and he's very knowledgeable and I totally trust him. But in your own areas, go and look into it because
I'm gonna refer her to her lender ultimately, but that's interesting to know. It's something that she can at least ask about.
yeah, because that was my go-to objection for this whole thing before was like, hey, no worries, there's such thing as an assumable loan, but that was setting it up for failure too because it wasn't really something. Now maybe it gets them in the door, maybe they think about it, but I mean, we all know what it was like in 2020 and 2021 when the rates were that 2%, 2.5% type thing, and almost nobody really wants to. So you have to come back to motivation. That's where it comes back to.
Right. And I think I agree with that 1,000,000%. It's finding out if there's any real motivation for selling. Like the girl that I was talking to yesterday, she was pregnant. She had 3 kids. The house was too small. And it's not gonna work for them long term. So I just said, I was like, "Well, can I ask you a quick question before I let you go?" She was like, "Sure, what's up?" And I could hear like the baby crying in the background, like you can feel this house is too small. And I was like, "What will you do if they don't come down?"
Oh, ooh. Now we're getting a little mind trick. Okay, yes. Yeah, what will she do?
She's like, "Eventually, I'm gonna have to sell." And I was like, "Well, what will you do if they go up?" And I was like, "If I can show
Date the
you."
rate, marry the home.
Well, I just said if I can show you, a massive advantage of selling now versus waiting, is that at least worth a conversation. And
Heather, your clients need to pay you the big bucks. I'm just saying, like, you are very impressive. I feel like I hope though that your clients are delivering on these that you're setting up. I would hope they are.
I do. So the one that I have her set up with, she's amazing. But I do think that she's one of those agents that is very authentic and she will help this girl. Because I genuinely think that this girl needs help. There's no way she can get in this house on her. And I have 4 children. I know what it's like to be in a house that's too small. My house is huge right now, but we can only use like half of it at a time. Like my office has no ceiling on it, so if my kids are loud, I can't work in here. Like it's the whole thing. If my agent cared about me at all when I bought this house, I would have not bought this house. Just I have a 3-car garage that fits none of my cars. It's a whole thing. So when I tell
Wow.
you, I instantly felt this girl's soul. I'm like, girl, I feel you. But if I had an agent like I was referring her to, I would be in much better hands. So I do agree.
See, I use exactly what you just did. I empathize on that level because same. I bought almost brand new home. My agent did not do it justice. It was almost brand new. We had carpet beetles. We had no hot water in the yes, and we did an inspection too. No hot water in the primary bath, and our fridge froze everything. And an inspection didn't catch that the fridge freezes everything. Carpet beetles. Yes, they look like little brown, like ladybugs. They're tiny.
I will
So
say home inspectors don't check refrigerators. They
you
check
did.
No, they don't. Because it may not stay with the house, so they don't check it. They only check the stove and if it's like an attachable microwave as far as the appliances. Like they don't check the washer and dryer. They don't check anything that may not convey with the property.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was like, shouldn't they have found that it has bugs in the place, which that was bothersome. I mean, we're talking it was like 5 years old and I don't know. But either way, it all worked out and we figured out how to get the hot water into our primary bath and all of that. But I go there is what I'm trying to say with you, Heather. Like I will be you and I'll be like, I'll hear it and I'll be like, I relate, I understand. Like choosing the right agent is such a big deal. And that's why I come from this place and help agents and buyers and sellers connect. So yeah.
Yep, I agree with that. But also, carpet beetles. We just come back to that.
Dude, you have to like
Did they? Do inspectors not check that? Is that not a thing that should have been caught, or was that an oversight? What happened?
A pest inspector should have caught it.
yeah. And I know that we have that too, which is crazy. But yeah, and so they
And maybe they're looking more for termites. The wood because it's a wood destroying pest inspection. It's not a bug inspection.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And there's not even that much carpet in the home, too. Okay. Which is even more disturbing. Okay. And I'm like, this is just all wrong. But yeah, and I didn't even know what a carpet beetle was. I'm like, what is this? And every spring now, like one will start crawling up the wall, and I'm like, how does this not gone? And so now I'm convinced maybe they're coming in from outside, but it's not like bad. But the first spring there, we're talking like, and I'm like, there's larva in. I'm sorry, we just totally been off on a tangent, but no, I would vacuum and steam clean the crap out of her.
Holy crap. Yeah, no, I feel like with my agent, um, she just I think she was so focused on getting to the closing that if I had slowed down a little bit and really understood what I was getting myself into, I would have made a different decision. And I just feel like and again, partial right accountability, I should have paid attention to. But I just feel like with this girl, particularly the agent that I was setting her up for, and I think they have an appointment next Thursday or Friday, I can't remember. But I think it's Thursday. But either way, I think that they're going to meet, and I think she's gonna automatically see that, we're going to do what's right for her. And I feel like that's gonna bring her a lot of peace because I feel like she is just so overwhelmed. And that's part of objection handling, right? It's understanding what the feeling underneath the objection is. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you probably don't hear this one a lot, but I get this a lot with pitch boats. We're just not gonna list it with the realtor.
Oh yeah, I do get that, and I ask them why, and I educate them on why it's in their best interest and how they can get more eyeballs on it. But I don't like. I really, again, I'm not pushing. I'm just like, may I ask why that's the case? Usually, they've had a bad experience and they think they can get more money.
Yep.
And then I say, I was that seller that thought my house was worth more than it was, had it listed too high because I'm like, we're not gonna come down. Like we had all these upgrades to this condo, and another one was selling for 75K less. That was not open concept and all this stuff, right? So we had to bring it down because the market dictated that it had to come down. And once we brought it down $25,000, then it actually got way more views, and then we had more of a battle for it. You know what I mean? Like more
Yeah.
people, and then it's a lot easier to actually, get what you want when you have more eyeballs on it. So I educate them on that, and I explain my own process and what happened with me.
Yep. No, I agree with that 1,000,000%. And I kind of do that same thing. Like, it makes sense. And you shouldn't have to in this market, right? And
Yeah.
that one, it's getting a little bit more difficult to use. But I say if for some reason 30 days goes by and you're unable to sell it on your own, which I'm sure won't be the case. But if 30 days goes by, at that point, would you be totally opposed to, the idea of working with my agent and seeing what they can do? So kind of that same thing. And then we just put them on a nurture campaign and the whole thing. But yeah. Bulldozing at that point is a waste of time.
I want to point out that something that you're doing, which we haven't really mentioned, I know we've mentioned before, but you are using this, would you be totally against instead of would you be okay with? Now, okay with is giving permission, and it's much easier to say no. When you say, would you be totally against us finding you the perfect buyer and getting you exactly what you want? They're going to say, absolutely not. I would love it if you did that, right? So I love that you're doing that. And this is why we have this podcast. I know that sometimes I'm going to look a little silly and a little stuck in my ways, and that you look much more open-minded. But I also have my niche, and I'm going to stick with it, and I'm not gonna go outside of that. But I want other people to see the differences and how they can use it, and maybe blend some combination of both of us and make their own.
And I think that's what we have done quite a bit is like we've learned to blend both styles because like I said, I've learned a lot from you and your ways definitely work. And I will straight up admit there are times I get hung up on, there are times I get cursed out. Like that same sentence might work for one person and another person. I told John, can tell him, hang up. Look, I made it very clear I'm not an agent. No, I don't want to meet with you in 30 days.
There you go.
It happens. There's no magical thing that you can say, but I will say that by using certain language, especially, that positive language, nobody wants to feel like they're closed-minded. So it opens up that door. It keeps it open a little bit longer for you to be able to kind of see if there's any real motivation. But if there's no motivation, there's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can do. You're not going to force somebody to sell their house unless you have, I don't know, the people that lived in the full house when they were little and they're offering $1 bazillion, and maybe, but
Funny.
like the house that built me, if you have that, maybe, but no. Okay, and then this one I get, and I don't ever really know how to answer it, so I'm interested to see what you say. But how much do you charge?
Oh, okay. Yeah. That is a conversation that you will need to have with the agent. Because I'm not about to like say what,
Exactly.
anything. And then I will also add on, like, some of my clients have different packages. So you can choose from, like, if you want more marketing, more exposure, more ad spend, or if you need staging, if you need this, if you need that, right? Especially in luxury, which is it's a huge part of what I do is in luxury. Um and then also in luxury, they don't really complain about the price that much either. They're not sitting there trying to get a great deal. They understand what goes into it a lot of times. But yeah, when I come across that, I definitely am like, hey, I got to get you to talk with the agent. That is their thing. I'm not going to overstep and try to tell you what they charge because that's up to them.
Yep, I agree with that. And that's kind of pretty much the same thing I say. I'm like, listen, I'm not an agent. And I love falling back on that, especially for that question.
Then you
But
better
I
not
know
get
that they have,
licensed.
I will. But I let them know, that they have to form fake plans and, that's up to them and that's something they can discuss. And that's part of the reason I wanted to meet. So where you at on Friday? And I will say, I think that it's, for anyone watching this, and Tara and I have talked about this, I learn a lot of what I do from Brandon Mulrenian. He is a huge coach on YouTube. I do have to give him credit because everything I've learned from him. And I feel like, before I came across him, I didn't really know how to, like you said, bulldoze the objections. I was just kind of saying whatever I needed to get over them. And I feel like the way that I've learned from him and what he taught me is, you know, hearing them as a person and hearing what they're truly going through and understanding the emotion behind the objection. So I do want to say that. And I think part of the our job anyway is to understand that these people have real lives and real concerns, and I think a lot of it just comes from overwhelming. And so, I think just listening to them is the big takeaway, I think, for today.
Yeah. And that's a great segue because we are out of time. But I do want to reiterate what you just said. Our job isn't to force any kind of opportunities, is to identify their readiness. And I think we are both coming from the empathetic perspective where we really care about the buyer or seller's needs and like what they're saying to us. And we're not really trying to force anything. We're just trying to get more clarity, and the objections that we use and handle are meant to really identify, what category of client they could potentially be, or like what category of buyer. Are they in the warm, hot, cold, never, pile or what? So I think that's also really important. Okay, so let me see. Is there anything else?
Quick question, Heather. What was the Brandon's last name? Did you say?
Mulrenian. Here, I'll put it in the chat.
Great.
I was thinking about that because I learned a lot from his YouTube videos. I actually joined his course, and all of my IFAs learn from him. Like, that's what we do for trending. But after we were coming out of 2021, like when the market was going crazy, I realized what was working then wasn't working. So I'm sure that pivot is really important. But when I started like, this isn't working anymore. How do I word this now? And I would just kind of went through like this crisis, and Sarah actually watched me go through this crisis. But I was like, I feel like I can't get past 10 seconds on the phone. And so I started doing a lot of research. I started watching what a lot of people were doing, and I really liked his approach because he doesn't force anything. And my favorite thing about him is that he puts a lot of his phone calls on YouTube for like you can hear his calls live, and so you can really hear how the objections work. And that was where I learned a lot of what I get. So let me
put his name in the chat because I don't know how to spell it, but I do know. I've watched his videos too. And yes, exactly, Debbie. We're saying that's a great question as far as compensation to ask the agent when you meet with them. Absolutely. That's exactly where I take it. Yeah. Brandon Mulrennan. And I think that is everything that we have for today. This was super fun, and I hope you guys got something out of it. You know, one other thing I want you guys to know is like a lot of agents who are pushing are operating from a scarcity mindset, and that is just a big barrier to your business. So don't force anything. Make sure that you are coming from a place of empathy, and then you will usually say the right thing in the right way at the right time. And hopefully some of the things that Heather brought to the table will also help you out. And we will be back in 2 weeks, same time, same place. So see you next time.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.